But I'm just worried. I see that obviously as the Eagles' Achilles heel, and they're going to have to bring one or two people in.
Well,
what are your thoughts about that?
Patrick Robinson's been playing very well after that one bad day he had.
I guess on one day, I read Jeff McLean a lot. Jeff, talked a lot about that, but he has been stabilizing, and you've seen better things from him.
Yes, he's been all over the place, knocking passes down with the ones, and he's. Rasul Douglas has played well. You heard Nigel Brennan talk about how much he's all over the place. Jalen Mills has been playing like a veteran. In fact, I was talking to Jalen the other day, back on Saturday, and I said, "Are you going to do you guys going to do like an Aaron Rodgers and just say to everybody, relax? We're going to be okay."
Well,
and, he said yes. And see, Ron Brooks is back. He was having a great preseason last year until he got hurt, and Grimes was having a very good preseason until he got hurt.
Yeah, Grimes was he's a gritty player, interesting story, Canadian football player, but they have some depth at that position, and you've been watching him. I guess I hear the doom and gloom. Whenever there's something, whenever they have a bad day, I think it makes for good copy.
Well, but the other thing is, everybody's positive because it's preseason. They haven't lost any games yet. So, of course,
nobody's been burned for a long touchdown, right? Not a meaningful one, at least, right?
Nigel Brownham's going to say everybody's running around making plays, but it's practice until you see some preseason games, and then games that count, you really won't be able to tell. And it was interesting. Brian Baldinger was at Cowboys practice, and he said they're in the same boat with their secondary. So it's going to be interesting to see if this whole NFC East comes down to who gets better secondary play out of. Right now, we'd have to say mediocre players. I mean, not that they can't improve and become better.
Well, the division's fascinating because there's so many big play guys, wide receivers, and everybody, like Brian said, everybody's looking for a fourth corner. It's true, and Brian, it's great. He's on your show, and that guy travels more than anybody. Spencer, he was at 8 training camps in 7 days. I want to welcome Spencer G. and our guy Matt Shenko, our expert at NFC East football. And we're so glad we had this great crossover with Rock Hoffman, Big E, and Al Thompson, and we really enjoyed having you on the show.
Cool. Thanks for having me. See you guys later.
I really want to thank Rock Hoffman for filling in here, and on the line from Bitterbirds, it's our good buddy Adrian Feetcow, and he was just listening to our conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles. And Adrian, I don't know if you got an opportunity to go to the open practice on Sunday, but what are your initial observations that you have read so far, that you have seen so far from this training camp?
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the practice on Sunday. We'll be going this Sunday, but what I keep hearing about, some of the corners are struggling. I'm a little bit concerned about Patrick Robinson. We'll see how that situation plays itself out. I'm hearing a lot about Greg Ward. I'm hearing a lot about Marcus Johnson, the 2 wide receivers. I'm hearing Shelton Gibson, the 5th-round pick, is really, really struggling to the point where he looks like the worst wide receiver on the roster right now. So that is a little bit surprising. We'll see how the running back situation plays itself out. I heard you guys talking a little bit before I came on the show. There's like 5, 6, 7 backs in the mix. So you got to pick 4 of them. We'll see what happens. Ryan Matthews looks like he's going to be on the way out, so I do agree with you.
Adrian.
But interesting training camp so far.
Yeah, and so you mentioned some of these later picks that are not really, filling out. You mentioned one wide receiver there. That was kind of a. Can you fill us in more on this 5th-round draft pick, this wide receiver, and then maybe Matt Collins too? Have you been hearing about North Carolina wide receiver Matt Collins?
Yeah. Matt Collins is looking good apparently. He's a guy that is going to be more of a special teams guy, and he's a great blocker. So think like Riley Cooper, but a better Riley Cooper, because he can actually catch the ball. So Shelton Gibson is the guy that's like basically a go-around guy. He's a fly-route, 9-route guy. That's basically all he did in West Virginia. And I'm hearing he's dropping a lot of balls. His route running isn't looking good. So that, I'm not liking that from Gibson. So
yeah, Adrian, we heard the same thing. And the fact is, when the guy's just doing a one-on-one and he can't even catch the ball directly, and it's certainly with this team burned with Aguilaritis from last year, I don't think the Eagles are going to have a very long leash with somebody who can't catch the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it sounds like he's even going to make the practice squad. That's the crazy thing. That's the crazy question here. Is he even going to make that?
So,
If
Adrian,
he can't catch a ball with no defenders, then what's he going to do when it actually matters?
Adrian, I have a question about two players. One is Nate Gary. What do you expect from Nate Gary? Now he's transferring over to trying to be a linebacker. You have Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks might be departing, so then you might have a gaping hole at that linebacker spot. And then the other guy I wanted to mention is LeGarrette Blount. Do you see LeGarrette Blount averaging over 15 carries a game? Do you think that it will be a running back by committee sort of situation?
Yeah, start with Blount. I definitely think it's going to be a running back by committee. I definitely do not expect him to get more than, say, 20 carries a game. I'm thinking like 12 to 15. That would be like a good range for him. I'm also hearing that they're using a lot of dual halfback sets during practice with Humphrey and Stroll on the field at the same time. So I do think they're going to be using a lot of that short passing game as de facto run. You know, swing plays in the flat, screen game, all that sort of stuff. And to get to the linebackers, you know, depth at linebacker is a little bit of a concern here in Philly. We'll see what Nate Jerry can do. Now, we've seen this trend over recent years, you know, the Deion Buchanans of the world, the linebackers are getting smaller. And according to Pro Football Focus, I believe Jerry was rated as the second best safety last year in college football. So we'll see what he can do.
One thing, Adrian, is we actually had a chance to meet Nate and interview him. We were doing something with Under Armour at the Combine.
Yeah.
And Nate was an incredibly humble guy. I think the city's really going to like him. They like his story. Really a Midwestern kind of guy. He did not know, when we were there, he didn't know he was going to be transitioned to linebacker. But he's a big kid. He looked to be about 6'3", and I know that they're working him out hard. And the fact that you have a linebacker who could actually go out and cover some tight ends and running backs, that was a big problem that Michael Kendricks had. He couldn't cover his shadow last year. But as far as Gary's concerned, Spence, what were your thoughts in having interviewed Nate?
I think Nate's going to have to bulk up, but I think Nate is athletic enough to cover the position. And I think he's fast enough to be able to be a linebacker. But it's just strange because, you know, at Nebraska, he was a guy that would be, you know, could really cover really well. So, you know, Adrian, I wanted to also get your thoughts kind of on this team. And it seems like last year, you know, when you had Carson Wentz, it seemed like there was a lot of buzz around the preseason. But what are you looking forward to as the Eagles are going to open up preseason? I believe it might be next Thursday. You know, who are some intriguing candidates? I guess Derek Barnett you're probably going to be looking at, and the corners. What do you want to see in this preseason here coming up?
Well, just to reference Derek Barnett, something that I want to see from him is developing some secondary third pass rushing moves. Because right now he's got the speed rush. He's really, really good at that. And right now, the sack record for the Eagles for rookies is 6. So I'm looking at that mark, and we'll see what happens. Joey Bosa last year had 10.5 sacks. So going back to the secondary pass rush move that I was talking about, Bosa had like 3 of them. So you look at that, maybe it can translate with Barnett if he can develop some more moves. That's something that Jim Schwartz has been talking about during training camp, really trying to develop some more moves for him. So we'll see there. As for other candidates, I'm going back to the cornerback. I know I keep stressing about that, but I'm worried, man. I'm not hearing good things about Patrick Robinson. There's a lot of youth in the secondary, at least at the cornerback spot. So if Patrick Robinson can't do anything, I've got major concerns here in the secondary.
Yeah, and you look at the defensive line. You know, Connor Barwin is out. You now have Chris Long, and it's just hard to. It's hard for a guy like Brandon Graham to replicate how special he was last year. I think Timmy Jernigan's is a really solid addition. I like Vinny Curry and the depth that he can bring. But I look at this defensive line, and the Jim Schwartz defense is so predicated on the success of the defensive line. And I just don't know if it's going to be as dominant, you know, with Chris Long and a rookie and Derek Barnett. I mean, do you think this defensive line can be, you know, at times last year like a difference maker for this team?
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the quarterback for a second, because last year, when it all went downhill, the quick passing game was what people couldn't stop. the cornerbacks couldn't stop that. So this year, I mean, we'll see. Geez, I'm really, really concerned. If you can't stop the quick passing game, the pass rush can't get to the quarterback. So it's almost doomed.
Right. You look at the Eagles and their first 4 opponents. You know, I'm going to be honest. You know, I think that Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they played that Thursday game at New England. And I think that they're going to definitely lose to New England. Usually, the Super Bowl winner always wins the first game of the inaugural regular season matchup. Then Andy Reid, we all know, with 14 days to prepare off a bye week, the guy is dynamite. He's going to be 0-1 off of a bye week. I think that Kansas City game is going to be difficult. The Redskins game's a toss-up. The Giants game you could possibly win, but then Phillip Rivers seems like the kryptonite to the defense we were talking about. So as you look at these 4 games, you know, what are your expectations? Could this be 2-2? Could the Eagles survive this stretch? Because all 4 teams, I think, you know, provide problems.
Yeah, I think the first 6 games is going to be difficult for the Eagles. If they can get out of that 2-2 over that first 4, I'll be happy. The rest, this is a team that the Eagles have struggled against, obviously, over the last couple weeks. Maybe this is something, if they can go into FedEx Field, win that game, maybe it's something that can set the tone for the entire season.
Adrian, thank you so much. Adrian from Bitterbirds, and a special announcement next week for everybody listening. Adrian's going to be joining me in studio. It's going to be fantastic with Philly legendary YouTuber E-Rock as well. So Adrian, a little sneak peek of next week, man, and thank you so much for joining Rover tonight, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Next week's going to be a blast. Can't wait.
On ESPN Radio, that's Adrian Fekow from Bitterbirds, and we thank him for joining us, previewing a little bit of Eagles ball. Now I'm going to focus on the guys in this room in 555 Bala Studio. We got over here in the impressive white shirt, we have Matt Schenko, really dressing up for the podcast tonight, Matt. And
you look like you're going to cut a nice rug over there.
yeah, absolutely. You already know.
So I know that the best thing about Matt is he's our NFC expert. I know you spent some time around the Giants training camp, and obviously Game 3, we've circled that on the calendar here, Philly. I know you're going to be there. So give us an insight into what's going on with the New York Giants. Give us the good, the bad, and the ugly with the Giants.
I can give it all for you right now. I mean, I've been hearing reports now at the Giants training camp. It's going pretty well. I mean, Sterling Shepard, I'm going to start with the bad because I like to start with the bad. But the Sterling Shepard, he's rolled over his ankle as like a basketball type of injury, and he'll definitely heal from that.
It was a scare because he was carted off like you were.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look at, and you know they actually had the little party, you know, in the locker room, kind of something, you know, kind of loosen the winds for the whole squad there, and I think it's just good it's a long season, it's a training camp, and a lot of people are just kind of getting ready for the big time. Going, and it's going to be fun, and I'm excited. And
I want to welcome in Steve Lewis here, Stevie Lewis, talking a lot of Eagles. Of course, we're going to get to Pete Rose later in the show, but Steve, when you look at the Eagles and you look at the NFC East, you seem pretty confident on this team, on this Eagles bunch.
I'm pretty confident. Why do you look at me and think Pete Rose?
I don't.
Okay.
But you know what? You're a Phillies guy. Like
I'm a Phillies guy.
baseball guy.
Oh, that's why. Okay, I feel better.
You were definitely.
I didn't know if you thought I was hanging out with Pete in the.
I thought you were hanging out with some 12-year-olds.
No, I'm high. I'm very high on the Eagles. I think that Adrian that called in tonight is right. If we can get out of that. The first 4 games of 2-2, I think that they'll be on a roll. I think it's very possible and probable that our starting cornerbacks are going to be Rasul Douglas and Jalen Mills. So there's some concern there. It's all going to be predicated on that line and the ability to get to the quarterback. Adrian's right; the short passing game can burn us, but. Defensively, there's a lot of questions out there. The biggest question was cornerback going into the draft, going into this offseason, and they really did not address it the way that they should have. And so that's a little bit disappointing when they had opportunities out there in the draft. Offensively, you know, I listened to you guys coming in, the dearth of talent at the wide receiver position. I was talking to Al on the way out. The guy that I'm in love with is Matt Collins, the 4th-round pick, who I thought was a steal out of North Carolina. He was hurt in his senior season, and Al's just thinking he's looking terrific. He's a beast. He's a big guy. It's a guy that may end up on the practice squad. I don't know. Hopefully he makes the team, but I think that he's pretty much a special player.
As opposed to the West Virginia guy who can't catch a cold, I think certainly with this Eagles team, they've been burned by guys that just couldn't catch the ball, and they're really deep. I mean, Bryce Treggs isn't going to make the team. Paul Turner is an afterthought.
Paul Turner's your guy. And
Paul Turner's my guy.
He's the kind of guy.
I want to get him for a flag football league in Lower Merion Township.
Paul
Turner's he's my guy.
He's going to end up on the Patriots.
He hasn't dropped a ball ever.
He's going to end up with the Patriots to be an All-Pro and go in the Hall of Fame.
He probably is.
I mean,
he's going to be an All-Pro.
Is he a Belichick kind of guy?
He reminds
Hey,
me
listen,
of
Marcus
who's
Smith
that guy?
can make
Chris
it.
Hogan.
Yeah, listen, Chris. If Marcus Smith can make it with the Seattle Seahawks, then it just shows you that it's the system, it's not the player.
Marcus Smith makes it with the Seahawks and he goes to the Pro Bowl.
What is it?
I give up.
It's Patrick Chung, Terry Williams. Who else?
Eric Rowe.
Eric Rowe.
I mean, it's all.
Eric Rowe got burnt on 3 touchdowns by Calvin Johnson. He goes to the Patriots, and what does he get? He gets a Super Bowl ring.
Bruce, I think you're 100% right. This kid, Paul Turner, I don't know what more he could do. He wasn't drafted, but he catches everything thrown to him. He's a great kid, great heart, a great role model, great everything for face of the organization. He's just a great guy.
Should have a documentary on him.
He's a great guy. I think and we'll try to bring him into Rover Sports.
I'm a huge Paul Turner fan.
I think he's going to be available.
I think he might be available.
After the cut, I think he's going to be available.
But even like the Chicago Bears, you might think they don't have a great receiving core, but they're even going to have to cut like a Reuben Randall or a Tanner Gentry and guys that even like have talent like a Kendall Wright. I mean, there's plenty of wide receiver out there, that you could get on the market, and you can only have 5 on the team, so it's going to be so competitive. But Aguilar is in the mix, Torrey Smith, Jordan Matthews, and then you mentioned Mac Hollins.
And Aguilar is in the mix. Aguilar is looking good.
This
and
whole wide receiver thing, they're actually a strength for this team, the wide receivers now.
Well, I think sometimes you put Aguilar in the slot. So let's face it, the balls you catch, it's a short pass, it's a slant, it's more a reactive situation. And sometimes, a change of scenery for him, playing in the slot is a change of scenery. Also, I like the fact, people always rag on the Philly fans, but I wasn't at the open practice, but I heard that the fans really lifted Aguilar up. He didn't drop a ball. He was the darling of the fans. And you know what? I think America is the most forgiving country in the world. And I think with the Phillies fans, when you have a comeback kid like Aguilar, he's a young guy. He's got all the tools. He's got an NFL body. And it was between the years last year. He just couldn't do it.
Between the years. I think he's going to have a comeback year. I really do. And I'm rooting for him. He's not a bad guy. He's not going to get, Jordan Matthews is going to be your slot receiver there, but he's going to return some punts. You guys talked about kick returns. There's not much kick returning done in the NFL anymore with the movement. You talked about Donnell Pumphrey. I was listening coming in. He is little. He's little. He's not Darren Sproles little. He's little because he's not as thick as Sproles.
He doesn't have a long. They say he does not have a base.
Right.
If you look at Sproles, he's got a base. If you look at him abdominally, he's got thighs like Robert Newhouse. If you remember him. One of my least favorite teams.
Low center of gravity, thick guy.
But if you look at Pumphrey, he's built like Steph Curry. He's totally thin. There's no mass to this guy at all. He's built like a fly. Hopefully he won't. He's got a hamstring problem now.
There's some opponents, especially with the Giants or the other teams, that are ready to welcome him to the NFL. Believe me,
they're going to pick him up and carry him like 20 yards.
He is not Darren Sproles, and I don't want anybody. He is not as thick and strong. Darren Sproles is a strong man.
Yeah, well, Matt, I wanted to ask you this question. When you look at the Eagles and you compare them to the NFC, I think that their linebacking core. I think Hicks is a really good player, Jordan Hicks, but Nigel Bradham, I just think Bradham is okay. He's a very good tackler, but Brandon Graham and Nigel Bradham played unbelievably last year. I just don't expect the same production from these guys. What do you think about the Eagles' defense now heading into year 2? I think that I just see this team plateauing somewhere along the line. I don't really see a special Eagles season. Well, it's one of those things with the Eagles organization. They always have struggles every year when it comes to trying to win games from big margins. It's so important. The Eagles definitely they need to find a way to find some more chemistry on that defensive side of the ball. Believing in that system, believing in that chemistry with all of those guys. Mustering 110% effort. every single week. And I just really feel if they every guy in that system believes in the system and believes that they can actually improve on a week-to-week basis, you know, the fundamentals of the game and everything that goes along with playing the game of football, then I think they're on a really good way to on the way up.
I'm nervous about Doug Peterson because that Green Bay game, Dorial Green Beckham had an unbelievable first drive. If you remember that game, he caught 5 passes in the first drive, and then Doug didn't go back to Dorial again. It just seems like the play calling is inconsistent from the top down with Doug Peterson. There were some really head-scratching calls, like the screen pass against Dallas that took them out of field goal range. The inconsistency of this team. The Bengals-Eagles game was the worst Eagles game I've watched in about 2 years. The Bengals, if they played the longest yard, Youngstown, Ohio prison team, they could have fared better than the Eagles did in Cincinnati. That was a team that quit. You look at the Lions game, Bruce. If the Eagles beat the Lions and went 4-0 and Ryan Matthews didn't put the ball on the ground, could that have changed the season? If Nigel Bradham didn't bring a gun to the airport, if Josh Huff was driving 50 instead of 140 miles per hour, if he didn't have weed in his car. I mean, all these things added up. It just seemed like a snowball. It seemed by the time they got to Seattle that this team was exhausted. It seemed like the Green Bay game, they were just tired and exhausted, and they regressed. So what do you think of Doug Peterson? Do you really see magic? Because I'll be honest, I don't see magic. I see mediocre when I look at this team.
Firstly, I think there's a learning curve. When you're a play caller, this guy never called plays even in high school. When he was with Andy Reid, I think he fell on the sword at the end of that playoff game.
You mean when he said, we were trying to take our time there down 14
Yeah, I mean,
points?
I think he was covering
It was
for
an
Andy.
okay. He did an okay job with the Chiefs.
I think there's a learning curve with everything in life, especially coaching in the NFL. I don't think there's any sport where coaching has a greater impact.
That's why.
I look at the NBA probably has the least impact.
Right.
You got LeBron James, you're Tyrod Lue, then you're a winner.
Or Mike Brown, yeah.
Yes, but I'm looking at so I'm going to cut Peterson some slack. I like the way he conducts himself. He's the anti-Chip Kelly. He's a classy guy. He's well liked by the players. He's accessible, and I think we're going to find out this year. I think, looking at Howie Roseman, he loaded him up. He loaded the team up, and I think a lot of people think it's playoffs or bust for Doug Peterson. I'm not sure. What I want to see is to see a trend of improvement, to see professionalism, and just to see not bad plays. But I see Dr. Lewis is shaking his head. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you know where I stand with Doug Peterson from the jump. I've grown to like him a little. First of all, I am so depressed from tonight. You're killing me.
Why?
I'm so sad. This is
Do you want to get excited?
I want to get excited. I'm so depressed. You guys are bumming me out. The two to my left here.
No, I'm talking in realistic terms.
Realistic.
You drafted a cornerback that is not even going to play this year. Does that tell you that the Eagles are ready to make some noise?
And I was not in favor of that.
They're still trying to figure it out.
You love that. This is like the Hall of Fame. You have him in the Hall of Fame, Sidney Jones.
Sidney Jones.
You have him in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I like it.
You liked it. But let me answer.
It's a very young
Let me
product.
answer.
It's a young team. They're not ready yet.
Well, it's inconsistent then. Either you're ready or you're not. The moves that they're making say they're ready, but you're right. If you looked at what they did last year, all the free agents, the Vinnie Curry signing and everything that they did, they were ready to go for it, and then all of a sudden they get rid of Bradford, and now they're a young team ready for the future. Answer your question, I have grown to like Doug Peterson and think he's capable. I agree with Bruce 100%. It's new, the play calling thing. I think he made some very, very poor mistakes and poor decision calling and gambled a little bit too much on fourth down. But that being said, he is loaded on offense. I think Howie Roseman left him some gaping holes on defense, but there's a lot to look forward to, and I think the NFC East is going to be weakened this year. I really do. So I'm pretty optimistic.
To brighten your mood here, Stephen Lewis, I really think that Carson Wentz, coming from being an NFC East expert and watching Carson Wentz and his development in his first year, I just really think that he is the guy going forward. Carson Wentz is going to be. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the break.
We'll be talking about it after the break, and we're here at Rover Sports. Stay with us.
My God,
I'm trying to help
I need a drink.
Why?
I'm going to have a drink
I'm
soon.
so bummed out.
Is it getting?
Thank
I'm
you.
going to help you. I'm
Thank
going to help.
you.
I'm going to be
Look
honest.
who's helping me
Is it
here.
getting dark? Is it getting dark in here?
It's It's good. With,
Honestly, it's
that's a
I
great.
might as well win.
That's a great shirt.
I will tell you.
Congratulations!
Kenneth
I
Cole.
want to tell
Kenneth Cole.
everybody out in Facebook land. Congratulations, a new job for Comcast. The new president. Brian, I heard Brian Roberts is retiring, and Dashenko is the new CEO.
I'll be doing
You know what I'm going to do, Steven? I'm going to
What?
preview the Redskins after the break.
Very nice.
Yeah, let's
I mean,
do it.
fine. Steven, I think the team's going to be okay. I think that I kind of don't know. I'm kind of not really certain.
I think Carson Wentz is the real deal.
I think Carson
Hey,
Wentz.
listen, it is
really
playoffs or bust for Doug Peterson. He doesn't make the playoffs, he's gone.
I really don't think so.
You don't
I think
think
that
so?
the teams, I think the expectation is like 8-8 right now with Dougie. I don't.
Are we going to talk Redskins? I think it's good because I also hear a little Cowboys.
Yeah.
I know. One thing I was listening to
I
Brian
can't wait to talk
Baldinger.
about the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, he actually went to all the NFC camps and actually was quite good on football
So
stories.
Gels, he has the best job in the world. He gets to travel in a car,
Does.
talk to all women from different states,
No
and
basketball.
gets to go to camp.
No basketball.
What,
Maybe
tonight?
tonight?
No.
I think we got to do a little Pete Rose. Here we
Oh, we
go.
could talk about the big three, but that's the only ball it's on.
It's gone.
Welcome back into Rover Sports, the show. It is Wednesday, City of Brotherly Love. Speaking of the City of Brotherly Love, that's actually going to be the new name on the Sixers jersey. I don't know if you guys saw this. The StubHub is officially the first sponsor of the Sixers jersey. I wonder if Jeff Gordon or Dale Earnhardt will be trotting out there, because sooner or later we're going to have M&M sponsoring the NBA. It's turning into soccer right in front of our eyes, and I don't want to be completely a Debbie Downer on everything. I like the move to Nike, but what do y'all think of these jerseys?
Terrible. Hate it.
Really?
I don't like ads on the jerseys. I think that, you know, by the time my kids are sitting in the Rover Sports booth here one day, they're going to be the StubHub Sixers, not even the Philadelphia 76ers.
You know, eventually
I mean,
the corporate world's going to come into the
course.
advertising world.
I don't
for-
think
for
they're.
basketball.
I think
gonna
it's going to
happen.
be like the big three. There's not going to be a home city anymore for these teams. It's going to be the Staples, Lakers, and that's what's going to.
Yeah, I definitely don't like it at all. I do, excluding the logo, I do like the color of the jersey. It's a little bit of a deeper blue. I like the idea of the stitching, the City of Brotherly Love.
Yeah.
And it is a good shirt. It's classic. I like the filler. That's old school. So, you know, the Fultz jersey is the one we saw in Philly.com, and it looks pretty good. So I think we're all excited
And he wears it well.
He does.
The rookie of the year is wearing it well.
Markel's just a cool guy. Even loved to draft day suit, and the guy has a confidence
Love
about
him.
it.
Yep.
I mean, the Sixers, you know, I couldn't be any higher on their team.
We have a
I'm
question.
really excited for them to start playing.
Sorry to step on that. There is a question from Lisa from Reading, who is our favorite caller.
Love Lisa from Reading.
And Lisa from Reading asks,
Staple.
the elephant in the room is a guy named the Hit
Shenko.
King.
Matt Shenko. No.
No, it was Matt, who's the king of Comcast. A guy named Pete Rose seems to make headlines in all the wrong ways. And the Phillies took a stand, and awkwardly, you know, the fact that they had him going to be on the Wall of Fame, they're going to honor him for a whole weekend. A lot of people were coming in. A lot of people bought tickets for those days. And something splashed across the headlines yesterday about Pete, years ago, maybe 30 years ago, having some interactions with a 16-year-old girl. And I heard a quote that he said that she was definitely 16 or something like that. Just going around the horn, some comments.
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. First of all, the Phillies did the right thing here. It's too rushed, and it's really starting to come out in the news, and there's more unfolding. It's very concerning. It was 40 years ago, and you know, it's outside the statute of limitations, so there's no legal ramifications for Pete at this time, and apparently it wasn't even illegal back then if she was 16. But, you know, there's just a lot of moral, it's deeply, deeply morally wrong. And the Phillies did the right thing here. They put out a statement today that they're offering refunds for people that purchase tickets for this weekend. And they will have a nice weekend of alumni events with Mike Schmidt and Steve Carlton and Kroc and all the people who are on the Wall of Fame. But, I mean, what the Phillies are doing, what's happening here is Pete Rose, anyone that knows anything about Pete Rose knows he's not a stand-up guy. I mean, this is but they were not honoring Pete Rose for his character or his morals. They were honoring him for what he brought to the team on the baseball field, not off the baseball field, and how he was the key and most integral part of them winning the 1980 World Series. But that being said, they did the right thing. It would have been a wrong message to send, and Pete put out a statement as well in that. So, that's where it's at.
Matt, what are your thoughts about Pete Rose?
It's really unfortunate because, as a guy with Pete Rose of his stature, being so much controversy even from him betting on baseball, now this coming out recently, definitely unfortunate. It's definitely a lot of details that have to go through the court system, obviously, to figure out everything. He said, she said, whatever happened there. I don't know the whole details of everything, but, it's just one of those things. I just hope everything works out, and that's very, very unfortunate.
It's surprising that that the story lasted 38 years or however long without the female coming and having the courage to mention what happened. And I mean, with Pete Rose, he has all the controversies. I mean, I'm not even complete. I know the betting on baseball, but I'm sure you guys can fill me in on more controversies of Pete Rose. But the Phillies definitely making the right play here with not a lot of time to prepare. And I think that it's definitely the right move of a guy of like Pete's track record. If this was somebody else, I think that they should take a closer look. But
In some ways, I see a parallel between Allen Iverson and Pete Rose, and the parallel is on the court or on the field. Both of these guys embodied everything fantastic. They hustled, they gave it all, but yet, just the way Allen Iverson did it, these people have deep character flaws. Pete Rose knew, like in the clubhouse, gambling on baseball, gambling and betting against your own team, which he did admit to. Finally,
and he admitted to gambling on his team.
It seemed like every time somebody like Mike Schmidt, he came out very strongly years ago, but Pete Rose, it's just one thing after another, personally lets down people that support him. It's just like Allen Iverson. He was gambling in Chicago. He was drinking and gambling that night, literally all night, and couldn't even get to Dallas. And the Big Three were marketing him. He's the face of the Big Three. And, that's just so irresponsible. So the guy is in his 40s now. Is he going to change? Is he going to grow up? How much slack could you cut him? And I think there's a parallel there. You just have to shake yourself loose with these people.
Yeah, I mean, I think Allen's problems are more internal, and I mean, fortunately with Allen, I think Allen's problems don't affect other people as much as Pete's, which is betting on baseball. And these allegations, that's a whole new, more severe level of wrongdoing.
I disagree. I agree with Bruce. I mean, I didn't think of it, and I think that's brilliant. That is a very,
I think
very
Allen
good
Iverson
parallel.
does have problems.
But I mean, it does affect. I mean, Pete Rose, first of all, he bet on his team. He didn't bet against his team. That he did acknowledge and admit to. So he was not throwing games, and that was in the spirit of his competitiveness, that he believed that he could outmanage and his team was good. But that being said, I mean, Pete Rose, was not a stand-up guy ever. I met him several times, and this is a guy, a womanizer, and did his things and had his transgressions. And again, the Phillies were not honoring him for his off-the-field anything. They were honoring him for what he meant to Philadelphia and how he played. And Bruce, you are on point with that. He gave everything he had on the field, as Iverson did. They're warriors on the field, off the court. These two are just not exemplary citizens.
As far as the Baseball Hall of Fame, there is certainly a clause that deals with ethics and morality. And there are certain, in football, for instance, I'm not sure that's the same. It's obviously the whole steroid era is something that casts a big...
Bagwell just got in, but...
Yeah, Jeff Bagwell just got in. Now people are talking. One thing we know, one guy who I don't think did steroids, Larry Anderson.
Right.
And the one thing that's really nice, being a Philly guy, listening to Larry Anderson, one of the most entertaining announcers, is that Bagwell actually mentioned Larry Anderson in his Hall of Fame speech. So now there's some whispering, maybe 1%, that Larry maybe had a really good career.
He did have a great career.
Sure.
He was a great pitcher. But just to wrap it up, I mean, these
Yeah,
guys.
we'll wrap up the
if you look at
It's not really a lot you
if
can
you
say
go through
about
the members of the Hall of Fame right now, I mean, none of them are angels. I mean, so and they're not going to take any awards away. But just to wrap it up, the Phillies did the right thing here. It would have been wrong to do this, and they didn't want the negative attention on what promises to be a beautiful weekend with the alumni.
I think some of the guys from the steroid era should definitely be given consideration to be in the Hall of Fame because they just are some of the greatest players you've ever seen, like Barry Bonds, like Palmeiro, Sosa, McGuire.
Roger Clemens.
I think Roger Clemens is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen. He was a hero of mine during my childhood. I still like Roger Clemens.
I guess one question is.
steroids?
I guess one of the questions
I
is.
think he was great though in Boston and Toronto before steroids.
I guess the question is. Some people, and this is a gray area. Some people think that if somebody admitted to doing steroids, that disqualifies them, and I think there's a point to be made there. The other issue is their body of work when they were thought not to be on steroids. I look at Roger Clemens, was tremendous. I look at Barry Bonds, even before steroids, it was tremendous, but he was such a brazen guy. I think personalities do matter. And Barry Bonds was one of the biggest jerks to the media, the people actually voting. So I think you could say that doesn't matter. But Steve,
What goes around comes around.
That really does matter.
It does. What goes around comes around.
And the NFL too, like I think T.O., like there's certain media members that don't really like T.O. and
Terrible.
I think, but eventually you have to put your pride aside if you're a voter.
Hey, what goes around comes around. You can't just be a jerk on the court or on the field. You gotta respect the fans and the reporters. And
As we head here towards the back end of this hour, I wanted to talk a little bit, scouting the Washington Redskins. And yesterday I was looking at the Washington Redskins, and they have Josh Norman at cornerback, who I think is, Shanko, one of the better corners in the NFL. You have Ryan Kerrigan and Ryan Anderson. Ryan Anderson at Bama was very good. Jonathan Allen, Stacy McGee. And then you have at your defensive line position, you have Terrell McLean. Not Rolando, but Terrell. So their defensive line in the 3-4 is okay. Then you have Zach Brown, Preston Smith. They have okay linebackers. I think their strength is in their secondary, though, Bruce. They have Sua Cravens, Swearinger. I think that basically their weakness is their cornerback. Their strength is Kerrigan's and Ryan Anderson. And their linebackers are not that great either. So
I see them as having a weakness in the offense. Kirk Cousins, Kirk Cousins. He really has a lot of talent. Just the way they treated him. The quarterback is the focal point of the team, and to just repetitively do this franchise tag in that dissension, I just think that doesn't bode well for the team. They lost Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon. They're two really first-line guys. They've got new guys coming in.
Right.
It's kind of musical chairs with that offense. Somehow when you have Daniel Snyder, there's just a dysfunction about the Redskins. Matt, you watch a lot of NFC East. What are your thoughts of the Redskins?
I couldn't agree any more with that because Dan Snyder obviously made one of the worst lopsided trades in NFL history, trading all his first round picks to be able to acquire RG3, and now he's kind of a shell of himself
how many
now.
playoffs did the Rams make though with all those trades?
But it all
Zero. How many did they make? One.
But it all comes down to what Stephen Lewis was saying a couple weeks ago. It's all about coaching, scouting, and getting the right players.
You were listening.
See, of course. I mean, it's one of those
pillars
things.
of success. You need to write that book.
But the thing is, though, with that offensive side, what Bruce was mentioning about the weakness there, Kirk Cousins always putting that franchise tag, not having that consistency, long-term deal. There's always a huge red flag. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a guy, obviously, he did play well in certain times last year, but there are times where he definitely struggled. And, I just really think that, it comes to a point where when you're actually going to make that plunge to be able to land a long-term deal with Kirk Cousins, or you're just going to go elsewhere again and just start all over. It just seems like it's, like you said, musical chairs, and they don't know where they're going.
But they have Rob Kelly, they have P. Ryan from Oklahoma. You watched Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
P. Ryan's a good running back now. They have Jonathan Allen, who was a beast, Ryan Anderson, and Kerrigan's. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility for Jason Peters and Lane Johnson with Jonathan Allen, Ryan Anderson, and Kerrigan's. I mean, their linebackers are weak. That's why Ertz is going to have a big game. Brashad Breeland and Fabian Monroe are not good corners, so guess who's going to step up? It's going to be Torrey Smith is going to have a wonderful game. He's going to have long touchdowns and huge plays. But you know who's really going to struggle? Is Alshon Jeffrey's going to have 3 subpar games because the Chiefs cornerback Marcus Peters is a Pro Bowler, one of the best. And then Janoris Jenkins. Des Bryant could have been, he should have been back in Dallas last year when Janoris Jenkins played him. Janko, how many catches did Des have on Janoris? Maybe 2 catches?
Yeah,
Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins is a magician. And there's no way that Alshon's going to be having success. He's going to be on the hot seat 3 games in. People are going to be criticizing his play. I'm just forewarning that Alshon Jeffrey has the hardest group of corners that he's going up against. He could be walking on thin ice here in late September.
Spencer, who makes the playoffs in the NFC East?
The Giants definitely make the playoffs.
The Giants winning the division.
The Giants, if we go for the NFC East, most talented defensive line.
Giants win the NFC East.
They do, yes.
Okay.
The Dallas Cowboys, Damian Wilson, their linebacker, getting arrested. Rolando McClain, codeine. He was drinking codeine last year. He had to retire. Then you look
Codeine. Is that a new substance?
No, codeine.
Look at Dr. Lewis. What is codeine anyway?
It's purple drink. It's used for like diarrhea and like stuff like that. It's
actually codeine, but that's what
codeine, whatever. I've never heard of those terms.
The fact that you're not a doctor, Dr. Lewis is, he's taking the high road.
You got the Giants.
Codeine.
In Dallas,
NASCAR driver codeine.
In Dallas, they call it codeine.
Bobby Codine.
Yeah, it's codeine. It's a Southern intellect.
You have the Giants winning.
Codeine.
I've never heard of codeine in my life.
You throw some codeine.
McClain.
Mix some codeine with some great alcohol. You got yourself a drink.
Codeine.
You could. So you have the Giants winning the NFC East.
Yes.
Dallas second.
Dallas,
Eagles second.
I think that only one team. I think only the Giants make it from the East because.
What's the Giants' record?
Giants record's 11-5, 12-4.
Okay.
Okay. Look at the NFC South though, Steve. Carolina, Christian McCaffrey, Cam Newton, Kelvin Benjamin, and Greg Olsen. What an offense. Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and Jameis Winston, you're getting a wild card team there.
Wait a minute, you just said Dallas the Giants are the only team from the East to make the playoffs?
Yes.
So you think Dallas is going to go, like, from 13-3, they're going to go to no playoffs?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they played a 4th place schedule last year. Their running back is getting into all this trouble. Their guard, Doug Free, retired.
And now
Chaz Green just got hurt. Oh, they're starting Nolan Carroll as their starting cornerback and Cedric Fortin that are literally guys that we would
I would take them back.
Nolan Carroll's looking pretty good.
They were guys on the scrap heap here, okay? You look at the Dallas Cowboys and
Carroll has some pretty good plays.
I mean, who is Anthony?
It's a really bad place too.
David Irving is suspended. They're not that great on defense. Rod Marinelli, and also Dak Prescott. He's going to regress. The team has one more year.
We have a Pepsi on this. The Eagles win the NFC East.
So Steve,
just a Pepsi.
Let me hear
just
your
a Pepsi.
whatever you want. Let's let Steve talk.
I'm going to go harder than that.
Steve, let me hear you make your pitch for why are the Eagles winning the NFC East? Go right ahead. You have the floor.
I think that to answer your question, Shanko, I think Dak Prescott is going to take a step back. A sophomore slump there a little bit for Dak.
That's my opinion, though.
I agree with a lot that's been said. Even though he's bummed me out tonight terribly, but with the codeine, he's on codeine. I think Spencer's drinking his own codeine.
That's not nice tea. That looks like there's some codeine in there.
I'm listing more players than everybody here.
I think that the Eagles are going to benefit from Peterson's second year of coaching. He's going to learn. I think there's going to be better. I think the offense is going to be great. I think Carson Wentz is poised to become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think he's going to lead this team. He's demonstrating it on and off the field. And that's where that comes from.
Eagles win the East, and they're the only team getting in, or do you think that the Giants are getting a wild card? Or
I think the Giants get a wild card.
Okay, but you think the Giants' defense is better, though?
I think the Giants' defense is better, though.
You look at the Giants. When you look at their cornerbacks and safeties, their corners are exceptional. And I look at the NFC East with a lot of the burners. That's the big strength for the Giants. The question really is offensive line for the Giants. That's a weak area.
And the Eagles' offensive line.
You got Paul Perkins and you got Ben Vereen.
Wayne Gallman.
Shane Vereen. No, Ben Vereen. He just died, but he was great on Broadway.
Benjamin
Button. But you look at their running backs as a weakness. They really haven't upgraded that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Offensive line is a weakness.
Yeah.
Do you win Do you win the division with the bad offensive line? Your thoughts?
It's a great question. I think Brandon Marshall's going to help. I look at Ben McAdoo. I'm not the biggest fan of how he doesn't seem like the most fun guy.
What week does Eli Manning get benched?
So here's the question I have. Everything's all peachy. You got Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham Jr.
Webb's coming in.
Right now it's training camp. Everybody's peachy. The honeymoon's on.
Everybody's
middle of the season. What I want to ask you, Batchenko, is are we going to see? Is this going to be another Scaramucci? Is this going to be primetime drama? Odell Beckham. There's only one football. Brandon Marshall. By the way, Brandon Marshall and Ryan Fitzpatrick were buds. But you know what happened in the middle of the season? It's called implosion. Are these guys going to really coexist?
Well, you know what I think before I jump into everything, but I want to counteract what you're saying about the running back committee with the Giants. I know they're a young core. They just got a guy, Paul Perkins. He's a year out of UCLA, so it has time for him to develop. And then Wayne Gallman, another third down back they can use. So I just want to see them develop. And I know they don't have an established running back, maybe like a Darren Sproles type like an Eagles have. But I think with all of this drama going on, yes, I am very concerned because Odell Beckham last year, I hope he learned from the boat incident with the wide receiving core going to that before the Green Bay game last year.
I think that was something out of Step. I think it was Boats and Hose. Something
like that, yeah.
Step Brothers, Boats and Hose.
Was McLean on there with Codine? Purple
I think there was Codine, Boats and Hose.
And Trey Songz. Listen, that was so immature. And then punching a wall in Lambeau Field, the most prized, but that's like a museum. I would never touch a wall there.
But the thing is with this whole drama
Where
going
would you
on
touch a wall?
But I think, Brandon Marshall said it even before this even happened with this Odell Beckham, that Brandon Marshall said that this would have never happened, the whole, going down to Miami for that Green Bay game. If I was here in the building, Brandon Marshall would have never let that happen. So I really applaud him for saying that, his leadership, and he's been in the NFL for quite some time.
Victor Cruz is like is like your third grade teacher. You love him, he's a sweetheart, but he's the good cop. And hopefully Brandon can be a bad cop. And then Shanko, what's one of the first rules of algebra? 2 negatives equals a positive.
That's the first rule?
Maybe not.
What do you guys think about
I don't know about real life.
We want to hold our audience here. Let's not get too deep into this.
But my point is,
what do you think of McAdoo?
No, Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham are. It's a great test for Ben McAdoo to see if this guy's the long-term coach, because you got to be able to handle the egos in this profession.
He's not.
And you look at Ben McAdoo, and I think he's a scientific nerd from the Chip Kelly.
Who gets fired
school.
first, Peterson or McAdoo?
That's a great question.
Doug Peterson. But I think both of them last 4 to 6 years.
Question for the panel, real quickly.
Let's see who gets fired in the NFL.
Quick hit. Odell Beckham Jr. worth $20 million? Steve?
Yes.
What?
I mean,
$20 million.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
He's certainly one of the elite players in the NFL. There's no question about it.
Yes, absolutely. I just think that with the $20 million being $3 million more than Antonio Brown, he definitely has the receiving yards to prove for it. He's definitely outplayed his contract, and I wouldn't go over that
contract.
But I wouldn't go over that $20 million mark. I know he's going to ask for more.
There's a comment here.
Quarterback money.
He's actually making $3 million less than J.J. Redick.
Well, yeah, that speaks for itself.
Oh boy. Anyway, guys, this was Rover Sports. This was a ton of fun tonight. We went everywhere on the topics, and next week, you know what's unfortunate? We only get one preseason game to analyze, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Bruce Arians isn't even playing his starters. So we're going to have to wait until 2 weeks, but special show next week, guys, and thanks for joining Rover Sports, guys. Have a wonderful week, and
good night and good sports. So I want to thank everybody on Facebook, on Periscope. We actually have 2 camera people tonight. I want to thank Steven Shoemaker. I want to thank Victor Reyes, right back from his Peruvian fantasy. I want to thank our producers. I see that we have 1,000 viewers for this. This is good. I think the thing that tonight was fun is we just bounced all over the place.
Shanko, it's like Halo.
I also want to thank all the guys from Football Stories. That was really cool. We really had a crossover tonight with Rock Hoffman, Al Thompson, and Big E, Eric Hauser. It was really cool. So I want to thank all the viewers. We're going to log off here If you like what you saw, if you're on Facebook, please share it, like it, tell your friends about Rover Sports. We had a ball tonight. That hour just went really fast.
Always
I
does.
want to thank Matt Shenko, Dr. Steve Lewis, Spencer G, and for the team, everybody. Good night and good sports.
All right.
Wait,
Hit finish.
Yeah, I got
hit
it. I
finish.
got it, Steve.
Thank you.
Hit post,
Good job,
Spencer. Hit
Steve.
post. Hit post.
Steven, did you enjoy it?
Where are you gonna be working? Wayne.
I'm sorry.
Are you still on? Did you sign off? You still on?
It's still on.
I want to say thank you, Victor. Good night and good sports, and we're going to sign off.
Great. We got 216.